Hello. Welcome to ohmTown. I should have done that, but I did not. Should I do that? No. We'll go back to that. Only for me to flip over to that. Hello. And welcome to another episode of ohmTown on Twitch. Today is 1/13/2022. I don't know why this says 2021. I must have completely lost my mind. Let me update that. Yeah. Not sure what's going on there. Well, anyway. Welcome to ohmTown. Let me go back to this. Remove that. And talk to you about what all of this is. So, if you stumble across this VOD, just know that ohmTown.com is a news aggregation site, but it funnels various news sources into 6 categories. Creator, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. My 3 focuses, or foci, my 3 areas of focus are business, society, and technology. And in my daily travels, that's what I provide as a service. I'll put it that way. And now I'm trying to transition over to Twitch and talk in real time with people who come into my chat and ask questions about the news and information that's provided by ohmTown in its aggregate format. And what I'm going to be doing today is going through a sample of some of the latest news that has been aggregated by the site. I have a little engine in the back that aggregates information and puts it into the various categories and subcategories. These are actual groups. And if you click on any headline, it'll take you to a little snippet. And in this one, it's Nintendo releases lengthy overview trailer for Pokemon Legends Arceus. And this will lead you to the source. So I want you to come into my chat and talk about this information. You can go to the site, click on the links, and follow it over to the source, and then come back or talk to me in chat in real time. That's kind of how it works. And I hope that y'all get a kick out of it. And did I introduce myself? I'm Mayor Watt. I'm the mayor of ohmTown. If you go over to ohmTown.com, you can become a citizen. Actions that you take on ohmTown.com get you points once you create an account. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Patreon. I'm on YouTube. I don't post anything there yet, but I'm going to be uploading these VODs over to, well, they're not really VODs. They're my recordings locally. And I'll be uploading them over to YouTube and in other places. But if you're interested, go over to ohmTown.com and sign up. And then come on back. But you're going to be busy reading various bits of news in hopefully categories that you find that you have an affinity with. So Create has a bunch of stuff from writing to 3D to, or 3D printing to, and that's Constructagon. And Reality Hacker is photo manipulation, audio manipulation. There's not much in some of these because news and information in the categories is a smaller amount, but I'm looking for sources that I find of value and not too crazy bias one way or the other. But at any rate, let's get on with this. What I want you to do is click on that link, go visit the source, check it all out. See what you have to say, and then come and talk to me about it. And if you are interested, I can put you up in that box up there above the chat. And we'll do it via Zoom. I'll just create a meeting, and you can log in, and I will grab your picture or video, your Zoom stream, and I'll throw you in there. And we can have a real-time chat. Sound good? Well, next time you see my VOD, or come by tomorrow at 6 o'clock, I will connect you. All you have to do is send me a message, and we'll set it up. All right. With that in mind, let me back up. So most of the time when you click on a link on ohmTown and then you go back to the homepage, you're going to get more information. It's pretty seldom that the same information stays at the top. And I've taken a sample of some news this time. Not really prepared, but interesting headlines that I figured, well, I could just talk about those. And I tend to see how, or talk about how things are interconnected across the three major areas that I focus on, which is, again, business, technology, and society. The first one here is Real Steel series in early development at Disney Plus. So if you've never seen the movie Real Steel, it's basically people taking control of robots and fighting it out. And it was a fun watch. And if you haven't seen it, then you can probably see it somewhere. I didn't, like I said, I don't prep for this. I prefer to kind of vamp and pull from my experience and maybe some knowledge that I've gleaned in my years. I'm not the smartest man in the room, but I can probably talk a little bit about a lot of things. But Real Steel was a fun watch, and I would love to have an actual series that highlights technology and its role in society in a way that isn't necessarily just opaque. And by that I mean it's not just there and it's a sign or a automatic car or some voice that controls your lights, that kind of thing, but something where the humans interact with it in such a way that it makes it more real. And as long as they do it right, which means they really make it substantial and not something that is CG and really just kind of superimposed and weak. I've seen a few times lately where you can really see the CG isn't meshed well with the virtual world that's being created on a set. And I think that budgets aside, if you don't make it real, then more real, then it basically becomes a joke to people, and that pulls you out of the immersion, and you're no longer part of the show. You're basically just pointing and laughing, which is kind of the point of Continuity Report, the show, the Continuity Report, which is something that I'd like to do for an hour a week, all by itself. What I'm doing here is basically ohmTown news. It grabs all of the news, or I can talk about all of the news across ohmTown. But I would really like to have a co-host and banter about movies. And the Continuity Report is all about finding these flaws within the movies and kind of joking about it. Not to the level of, Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks, because we won't be watching the actual show, but watching it beforehand and then talking about it, and hopefully finding some news where it's relevant. Like I just watched Book of Boba Fett, and the Rancor seemed to be kind of just plopped on top of sand and not really part of the scene, except for close-ups. And that's when it was physically, it was tangible. I mean, it wasn't just somebody seemingly petting a green screen, but the full body Rancor seemed to be just kind of stuck there. But other than that, Book of Boba Fett is a fun watch, even though this last episode was interesting. Oh my God, spoiler alert. Not really. You find out about it right away. It's no surprise. Anyway, I won't spoil it. But I hope that Real Steel makes it real. Interesting, yeah? I played on words there. All right. So how about the next? In the word in tech, I'd say that rockiest is today's word. From bugs to halted releases, Android 12 has been an unusually troubled launch. So if you follow the link, it'll open up a new page. You can chat about it when you come back, but read up on it and see what's going on with Android. The adoption, the balkanization of Android operating systems, the adoption, it isn't like Apple in that everybody is pushed to upgrade. And that in and of itself can cause problems with older technology not being fully capable of being driven by the newest operating system in such a way that it's speedy. Usually it's speed that suffers, not like a reliability or usability outside of speed. And where issues come into play is that with an upgraded operating system, it tends to require more processing power, and or the optimizations are designed for a different chipset, and hence the battery will suffer. And that's typically what happens with Apple devices. That the older the Apple device, the less reliable the battery is because batteries fail and so on and so forth, right? Well, with Android, there's a lot of balkanization, a lot of non-adoption of the latest version of it. And so when somebody does something, they have to kind of figure out if it's an OS problem because they didn't update, or if there's a patch somewhere that didn't get done, or blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. But there's a lot of adoption issues with Android in general. By the way, one of the biggest things that I'm a proponent of is learning how to program. I am not a programmer, but you really should learn mobile software engineering, software development, computer science, and be able to build whatever it is that you come up with, whatever you think would be neat. If you have a problem with something, then you can build a solution when you know how to do software development. Plain and simple. If I would have done it when I was younger, I would be able to much less expensively make whatever projects I want happen. But nowadays I have to hire a programmer, and it can be pretty pricey developing software through third parties. But aside from that, go over to The Verge and read this article, and then come on back and talk shop, right? Different patches, the initial release, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read the whole thing on the air, but it is perceived that the updating and patching and the initial release has been kind of troublesome. What's your take on it? Come on back and talk to me about it. Happy to discuss it. So how about another one from the Word in Tech? Activity data from wearables could help monitor blood sugar levels, studies indicate. Well, like a lot of Americans, diabetes is an issue, and it's typically brought on by being overweight, not to mention diet in general. If you click this link, you'll get taken to The Verge. This is from Nicole Wetzman. Tech companies are interested in diabetes tech. Well, tech companies have been interested in quite some time. I've used a blood sugar monitor to see what my blood sugar is because I was curious. And there are some wearables that transmit to a central reader, and you just swipe it across the little patch and it tells you what your blood sugar is, and it updates periodically. It's pretty neat. It would be great if there were, this is about as least invasive as you can possibly imagine. It's a pin that's a needle that's like perpetually stuck in you. It adheres to you and it stays there. Let me see. I forgot it just now, but the Freestyle Libre 2 reader or kit. It's about $150 or so. It depends on if your insurance will cover it or not, but you can get this little thing, and the reader sits on you, and the transmitter. It's basically gonna adhere to your arm and right on towards the back of your arm, and it will test your blood periodically, and it's really neat. It checks it in real time. It's not very sophisticated in the reading device, right? So like it'll transmit from your arm to this little handheld reader, and that little reader is, I think it's built by e-ink and not a really bright, colorful, flashy gadget, but it gets the job done, and it could probably be scaled back quite a bit in size and made smaller. But it's up to tech companies to do that evolutionary step in making devices smaller and smaller and smaller, kind of like what Apple does. Keeps on making their devices smaller and smaller and smaller. It's much more efficient. It's much more good for the environment because it's not using so many resources. You know, motherboards used to be massive, and now you can have tiny little 1 inch wide or smaller. I mean, SMCs are they're really small. So anyway, the smaller it gets, the better it is. So hopefully somebody will make these more sophisticated. And you can do the same thing with blood pressure. You can actually buy now what amounts to a watch or a watch band. There's 2 different versions. You can actually get a watch band and put it on your watch, and it will measure your blood pressure, and your watch, like an Apple Watch, will measure your heart rate. But the blood pressure cuff device sits on your arm and inflates periodically. It's quite interesting, but it's hard to come by. So health systems, health technology will make society overall better if people adopt it and trust the data that's coming from it. In this particular instance, they're talking about diabetes and pre-diabetes. You can be very close to being diabetic, or you can be diabetic and you never notice it. When you eat something, you get sleepy or something like that. Go and get checked out, and you might be on the edge of diabetes. And then there's things that you can do to mitigate it. Typically, you'll just be told, get healthy. As most things involving the liver tend to be, get healthy. Go for a run, go for a walk, eat more greens, don't eat things high in fat, etc., etc. Everybody's diet is a little bit different, but drink more water, exercise, etc., etc. And that's always great to hear from your doctor. You need to get healthy. And then you're kind of set out to the winds. Okay, I need to get healthy. But anyway, as things happen with me, I tend to kind of just ramble about stuff because that's the way my brain works. But if you have questions or comments, then feel free to throw them in chat, or if you find this as a VOD, come back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And if you surf ohmTown and find interesting articles, you can come back and throw them in chat and we can discuss them in real time. Because again, I don't really like prepping so much. You get to see my honest response, my honest reaction right out of the gate. And it may not be altogether valuable to most people, but some people will go, oh yeah, that's my response too. So what works and doesn't in an NFT backed newsletter? What about this? This is another Verge article. Now you can go over to the Verge and read it for yourself. This is a little snippet. Funding a media outlet is a tricky business. So I've seen several of these internet-driven reporting news sites come into existence. The Verge is one of them. You know, I've been around for a long time, and I saw the Verge get formed and transition from one look to another. The voice changes, etc., etc. The relative obscurity of it goes away, and it becomes kind of the de facto source of news and information. Kind of how like tech meme is out there, and it's been there for quite some time, and a ton of people know about it, but it doesn't seem to be prevalent in daily conversations that I have. But that doesn't mean that others aren't going through that. You're right. They're talking about, hey, have you seen on techmeme.com, which is a news aggregation site, but it is curated by a host of people and consolidates a ton of information. Like there will be one key report, and then there's a whole bunch of sites that are listed as being either follow-on or tangential to the primary source that they've curated. It's a great site. You should go and check it out. But this one is from The Verge. And so when I click this link, it'll open up a page. And they talk about NFTs. If you've never heard of an NFT, it's a non-fungible token. You can basically turn anything into an NFT, including the representation of something. So you can sit there and create a document, turn it into an NFT, sell it, and that document is the embodiment of ownership of something else. So if you have a painting and it's, let's say you donate a painting to me, and you decide to create an NFT, you can sell that NFT, and the person can, in that little NFT, can say, you own the painting that's on my back wall, even though you donated it to me. Now, what you really own is the NFT, not that painting, but you own the representation of that. So things can get kind of weird. You can own an NFT that is the NFT itself. So there is at the time he was really young. I don't know how old he is now, but he basically created, using scripting, Python, created thousands of little icons, emoticons, favicons, however you want to call them, but little graphics of whales wearing hats or some other thing in different colors and different shapes and blah, blah, blah. And it went viral. And so he's made, at the time, which is almost a year ago now, maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, I'm not sure anymore. Time is flying by in a blur of COVID. But some $400,000, but it was primarily the very first instance of images that was released. And when people started buying them for 99 cents or $1.99 on the NFT market, the money goes to that artist, and then goes up in value as it's sold, kind of like stock. It's kind of neat, right? Non-fungible tokens. What do you think of that? Do you think it's a scam? Do you think it's a joke? Do you think it's taking advantage? Well, I can tell you that the people who really dig NFTs are the first movers, the people that adopt it early, and as buy-in comes, they reap the greatest reward. So no early adopter is going to sit there and say that it's bunk. Just like when cryptocurrencies came into existence, people who really believed or saw it as an opportunity, they held on to it and never said anything bad about it, other than maybe it's taking forever for it to increase in value. Well, NFTs are kind of like that. I mean, there is no inherent value in an NFT. It's all perceived value. But then again, you can also say the same thing about the barter system. There is no inherent value in a barter unless the people that are participating in that barter believe that the two elements of the exchange have value. So value for value. But what are you going to do with that NFT? Your only option really with an NFT is to sell it again. Kind of like a stock. But stock theoretically helps out the business initially. Oh, again, kind of like an NFT. I will end up going down the rabbit hole of this, but what works and what doesn't in an NFT-backed newsletter? The Dirt DAO experiment, I'm not sure what that is, launches January 14th, but that's what this article is all about by Addie Robertson. So go over to The Verge and check it out, and read it and then come on back. And you can be the smartest person in the room by talking to me about this. And hell, you may be the smartest person in the room already. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency. If you've never heard of it, it is one of the more popular ones. We can talk about cryptocurrency too. But Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, in general, all of them are actually pegged to some other currency, real world currency, not a virtual currency, but a real world currency, wherein, let's take a look. So Bitcoin is by far the most popular, well-known, first mover cryptocurrency. And right now it's at $42,635.50, but it's US dollars, right? Well, a Bitcoin by itself is worth nothing. The only reason why Bitcoin has value is because people have the ability to take a Bitcoin and translate it into the US dollar or some other form of exchange. Okay. Back in the day, it was 14 Bitcoins would buy you a pizza. Well, the person who has those, let's just say 10, so it's easy. 10 Bitcoins now has $420,000. And whoever it was that sold that pizza for 10 is now just kind of stupid rich. I mean, just, oh my God, these 10 Bitcoins. The problem is he has to sell, or she, or they have to sell those 10 Bitcoins. And those Bitcoins are valued at real US dollars. So the cryptocurrency itself isn't worth anything. Well, the US dollar is worth the integrity of the United States and everything that takes place within the United States, good or bad, the entire work product of the citizens of the United States and the federal government's interaction with monitoring and maintaining the integrity of the US dollar. It also happens to be the reserve currency for oil exchange, oil purchases and sale. Well, yeah, it's the exchange currency, what's called the reserve currency. So if you want to buy or sell for the longest time, if you want to buy or sell oil, it would be translated through the US dollar. Some are not following that anymore, finding it tedious, a problem, as far as I know. And if you know otherwise, then throw it in chat and we can chat. But in the meantime, what is an NFT to you? Why are you interested in it? Is it really worth anything? Or is it possible that you're just an early adopter so that you can take advantage of that growth period? So Navient reaches $1.85 billion deal over predatory lending claims. There's a lot to unpack in this. If you have student loans, you might be interested in this. At nearly 66,000 borrowers will have their private student loan debts canceled. If you're not part of that, I'm sorry. And 95 million in restitution, which is nothing. That 1.7 billion, that's quite a bit. But 66,000 borrowers is nothing. There's so much money sitting in student loan debt because it was easy to get and facilitated learning without having to struggle, because education is expensive. Going to a reasonably priced law school, for instance, is $150,000. Continuing on to a master's degree and not law school, depending on where you go, tens of thousands of dollars. And it has been historically proven that the more education you have, the more money a person tends to make. Now, that isn't absolutely the rule. You can always be good at a job and excel. But the average person, the average Joe, without a college degree makes less than someone with a college degree. And if you have a 4-year degree, you make more than an associate's. And if you have a master's degree, you make more than the bachelor's degree in the same domain. it makes a difference. If you are in competing domains, someone in science with a master's degree won't make as much as somebody with a master's degree in cybersecurity because the context is different. But the field might actually be a niche field on the science side where you have to have a PhD to actually gain any traction and make the real money and be trusted with fundamental research. Although really it's college TAs and RAs that are doing research in the college level, along with the PhDs that are already there guiding. But this is a lot to unpack. And if you click this link, you'll go to the New York Times and you'll be able to read about it. But there is a lot there. So good luck to everybody who has student loans. Some of it may be forgiven. There's also a thing about forgiving the loans if you're working in public service. But let's continue on. There's something that I've always said for quite some time, that abuse happens in the dark. I've said this in the previous VODs that I've got posted on Twitch. And this is Republican National Committee threatens to prohibit nominees from participating in presidential debates. If you are not able to talk about your platform and you're a presidential nominee, there's a serious problem. And if somebody else is telling you that you're not allowed to talk about it, there's no way that you should be president. You should be able to freely talk about the issues so that people know where you are coming from. And when you violate the trust because you say one thing and do something else, that outrage should be apparent from the population, right? So if I say that I am going to fight for your rights, but then I become president or whatever, it could be a school board member, and you don't fight for my rights, and your bias suddenly becomes very apparent, it's fraud. You should be charged with fraud. If you're not willing to talk about your platform, you shouldn't be president. You shouldn't be anything in a position of authority. I mean, you can be anything you want, but you shouldn't be in a position of authority that's predicated on you saying what your platform is, you telling people that you will do this or you will do that. That's my take on it. What's yours? Come and chat. Now, this whole thing has become, it's starting to get talked about by others. So I'm sure this will pop up again in the news. The Republican National Committee threatens to prohibit nominees from participating in presidential debates. Well, my answer to that is abuse happens in the dark. Not talking about your platform is keeping it in the dark. Nobody should vote for somebody that is threatened by some organizational body and part of that body. I mean, if you are a Democrat and you're told by the DNC not to have a presidential debate, I wouldn't be in the DNC, just like RNC, threatening that I shouldn't, that I'm prohibited. Ugh. I mean, the idea of prohibiting somebody from participating in a presidential debate, if you're a candidate, if you're a nominee, if you're anywhere associated with it, I mean, you are a quasi-government body, right? So a national committee is not part of the government yet. It's an organizational unit, right? It would be, it's the opposite of the United States. You should be able to have freedom of speech. You should be able to say what you want to say without the government coming down on you. But this national committee is your brethren telling you to shut up, which just smacks of what's going to come to you when you are president or congressperson or whatever. It's just shocking. It's shocking. But that's the way that it goes. You know, somewhere in here, there is a a flow of authority. And we shall see how it plays out. We've got some troubled waters coming still. And I wonder what your take is on it. Now, I don't really get into politics. I don't really mess around with it. I have my own views. This is a societal issue, not a political one. You can say what you want to, and society can say, I agree or I don't agree. And it should be a reasonable response, not throwing rocks through windows and threatening to eliminate you, which is what happens. I mean, I've got a friend who tried to get an unpaid position in local government and received death threats. Yeah, couldn't believe it. Received death threats for an unpaid position in the local government. Politics are charged, and it's no wonder why people want to stay away from it. And you nearly have to be sociopathic to get into it. And then if you go the other way and you're too aware of the human condition and you're ethical and sympathetic and compassionate, then suddenly you're weak. You have to be. It's almost a survival instinct now, a survival trait to be sociopathic, uncaring. But what's your take on it? I'm really not sure. This has to be in the continuity report because it's talking about debates, and debates are typically provided via some media like netcasts or television. So how about they chopped down a centuries-old tree and now they face felony charges? Tree law is a very serious thing, and chopping down a black walnut tree, that could be serious. So serious that they're facing felony charges. We're charged with grand theft for chopping down a black walnut tree near their property outside Cleveland. So what is this all about? A director at an agency that oversees thousands of acres of parks, nature preserves, and trails saw a freshly cut stump of a black walnut tree. The police spoke to a nearby resident who said her husband's son had recently hired a logging service to cut down the tree and sell it for lumber. Said it's not a crime of the century, except that tree is expensive. It was grand theft, saying that the tree was not on his property, as he claimed, but on property owned by Cleveland Metro Parks. Yeah, and trying to the value of it is based on the quality of the tree and its age, by the way, and it is some serious business. In fact, I know of one report where somebody had chopped down a bunch of trees, but it was somebody else's yard where they cut them down. And what ultimately happened was the person was sued. They filed bankruptcy, lost their house, had to pay somewhere in the low 6 digits. And the trees were ultimately replaced, and a bunch of other stuff had to be done. But I am blown away by the seriousness of this. But what I tell a lot of people that I interact with is you can make more money, you can meet more people, you can do pretty much everything, but there's one thing that you just cannot get back. You can recover from health-related issues up until pretty much COVID, or losing a limb, and then you have to get prosthetics. But again, this is how my brain works. It's basically a flow of consciousness called associative thinking. But the thing that you cannot get back is time. Much like sitting in this just chatting ohmTown presentation of news that's gathered by ohmTown. You can't get that time back. So I hope you are finding value in it. Now, if it rises to the level of a 250-year-old tree worth $28,800, that's probably not going to be the same. Maybe it'll be worth $5 for the subscription for a month, which would be appreciated if you feel like subscribing. But a $28,800 tree owned by somebody else, you say that it's on your property and you chop it down, and now you end up with felony charges. Black walnut, by the way, is pretty nice. If you've ever done woodworking, black walnut's really nice. So what do you think? Should they face federal? Gosh, I don't know why I say federal charges. I mean, it's state charges. It's a felony. So they will have to pay this back if a court finds them guilty of chopping it down. But they're not going to find a 250-year-old tree that they can replace it with for $28,000. If there's a 250-year-old tree somewhere and they try and pull it out of the ground, there's no guarantee that it'll survive. There's these really cool gadgets. It's a big old machine, but it wraps around the tree and drives wedges down into the dirt underneath to a point, doink, like that, and then scoops the whole tree out after grabbing onto its trunk. And then it can pick it up and you can drop it off somewhere else. All you have to do is go over to the other location before you plant the tree, replant the tree. You scoop the dirt out, and then you drop that big old dirt ball and the root ball. You just drop it back into that spot and start watering and hope that it doesn't get some weird fungus and die. But if this is anything to learn, a teachable moment. Wow. If this is anything, it's a teachable moment in measure twice and cut once. And this only happened because a ranger happened to stop by. Was walking through a reservation checking on saplings when she saw a freshly cut stump of a black walnut tree. That's just kind of spectacularly bad timing. If that stump hadn't been there, if the tree stump, I merged that into Trump. If that tree stump hadn't been there, they may not have known anything other than the fact that the ground was torn up, but fascinating. So go check it out. Go to the New York Times. Click on the link on ohmTown. It'll take you there. Come on back, chat about it, vote it up, vote it down. Yeah, I hope you dig that article. So this is probably going to be one of these more politically charged issues, but it's not political, it's health and society. And the Supreme Court blocked Biden's vaccine mandate for large employers, basically saying that no, you can't mandate that. OSHA can't mandate that people have to wear a mask or be vaccinated. And if they're wearing a mask, they have to be tested regularly. Where you come down on this is largely an element of knowledge, education, marketing, messaging, just a ton of factors, upbringing, trust, etc. I mean, there's so many things, so many parts of this that lead you as a person to make a decision about what is right and what is wrong. This happens with everybody. But instead of seeing other people's concern about it, everybody has to pick a side. And I refuse to promote this ideology of hating on the others that don't follow my particular way. Now, the problem here is that I'm not going to be sitting next to somebody who isn't vaccinated because I don't know if they could be sick. And if I get sick, I can transmit it to other people because the vaccine doesn't kill the virus. It stops it from causing damage to my body. So when you have the vaccine, it stops you from being affected by its symptoms so disastrously. And it allows your body to fight it in such a way that you don't end up with full-blown COVID infection that leads to the things that end up killing you. Because you're not going to die of COVID. You're going to die of the things that are related to COVID. Because it does damage to your lungs. Your lungs fill up with water and you basically drown while you're standing in line somewhere. By the time you're that sick, though, you're laying in bed in an emergency room. Or nowadays, you're waiting for 200 hours before you get seen. I heard a report that somebody was waiting for something like 200 hours. I don't think that it's just one person, but it's a lot of people, because depending on where you're living, you've got tens of thousands of people that are being infected in 24 hours. I'm in a largely small location compared to others, community wise. And let me tell you, when you see tens of thousands of people that are confirmed COVID-19 infected, you start looking at it like it's the zombie apocalypse, and you're living in the world of Project Zomboid. If you've never heard of that, that's a game on Steam. It's a lot of fun to watch. I don't really play it, but it's a fun thing to watch. So this link is at commondreams.org. Feel free to go to ohmTown, click the link, vote it up, vote it down, make a comment. But swing on by and read it at the source, commondreams.org. And then finally, something that I was very happy to see. I hope that it comes to fruition, because Quantum Leap was a fun watch, and it ended in a weird way where it just kind of turned off. But Quantum Leap was basically Sam Beckett stepped into a Quantum Leap engine, a field, and vanished. And they call it an accelerator, but Quantum Leap accelerator, and then vanished. And the only way that he would leave the place that he landed was to solve a problem, right or wrong, correct whatever was going on. But now, correct is, it's a weird premise, right? Because whatever happens is supposed to have happened. But to right or wrong or correct something means that there's a ripple or an alternative timeline where the right thing didn't happen. And to realign it, it's kind of like the multiverse in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or in the Marvel universe in general. A multitude of realities, and there's one prime timeline from which every decision that you possibly make branches off to create an alternate timeline. I think that is a great idea. It's a great concept, and it opens up the ability to write world building beyond just the here and now, but it also can cause headaches in continuity, and a lot of people looking back at something and going, oh my God, it was just a dream sequence. Nobody likes a dream sequence, by the way. If you're a writer, nobody ever likes a dream sequence. It's empty. It makes you feel like whatever it was that you just spent, I don't know how long, either watching or reading, a complete waste of time, because unless you harken back to that dream period somewhere else and make it canon, they wasted an hour buying into whatever that show was. So I hope that they don't ever do that in Quantum Leap's reboot. The project is one of 2 drama pilots ordered by the broadcaster, NBC. In the new iteration, it's been 30 years since Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished. That's actually part of the intro of the show. It's a neat premise. I really dig it. So it's at variety.com. When you click the link, you'll get taken over there. That's Sam Beckett. And I think it would be great for it to come back. I will be the first to watch this show. Or I should say, I will feel that I'm the first to watch this show when it kicks off. Who knows? Maybe I'll even spin up something where we can talk about it here on Twitch, because I really loved Quantum Leap. Some of my favorite TV is watching Quantum Leap. Same thing with Star Trek. I've watched every version of Star Trek since the original series. I've watched all of the original series multiple times. Used to watch it with my dad. So, come on, bring Quantum Leap. I would love it. But what's your take? You think Quantum Leap should come back, or should they create a new thing and stop trying to reinvent the old wheel? Just build a new wheel. Is this a money grab? Well, I can tell you today, people pretty much don't know what Quantum Leap is. It doesn't have the legs that comic book related shows have, like the MCU or DC or multitude of others. But Quantum Leap was a fun watch. So what did you think of today's show? It was basically the first 2 pages, a sample taken from the front page of ohmTown. The news aggregator is reaching out and pulling information from those that I find of value. If you have a source that you feel would be of value to ohmTown and to me, and to the citizens of ohmTown as they come on board, feel free to get in touch with me and let me take a look. So I'm going to click ohmTown.com again, and you'll see that it'll refresh and have a whole new set of front page results. And this is how it works. Come on by, sign up, become a citizen of ohmTown. You'll have these 6 main categories and a whole bunch of shows underneath it. My objective is to get to 50 shows a week. Right now it's just this one. I've been doing it for 13 days. And I would love to have some real-time conversations with those in chat. And of course, the option to come on screen and have me chat with you and you with me in real time. In that area of void up there, you will fill it. We can have a nice conversation. And maybe you can become my co-host for a show or 2. We can talk about the specifics if you're interested. Look at that. 29 charged in 6 state shoplifting ring that hit pharmacies. 6 states, 29 people in a ring. I mean, the idea of putting that much effort into criminal enterprise when you could put all of that effort into legitimate work and not risk ending up in jail, particularly for something from the pharmacy. My gosh. Quebec is going to lift the COVID-19 curfew on Monday. Top prosecutor indicted for allegedly lying about COVID financial hardships. When somebody of trust violates that trust, you got some serious problems coming your way. 11 right-wing oath keepers charged with seditious acts over January 6th plot. This is something that I was talking about recently with a small group of people. The January 6th actions can't be seditious until people are charged with sedition. Otherwise, it's a myriad of things that went on January 6th. We can all coin it as seditious acts or sedition, but it's our perception until they're legally charged with sedition. And now the public can have its own opinion about it, but they can't act on it. If you do something to somebody based on your perception of their crime, you are violating the contract of society. And you'll be charged with assault or something worse. Whatever it might be in your given state, depending on where you are, you don't get charged with assault and battery. You just get you get charged with assault. Or battery, or whatever it might be. But at any rate, you cannot take the law into your own hands. Now, if you do, and somebody finds out about it, then you'll be brought up on charges. And maybe you'll find a court that's compassionate to your state of mind, but it's rare. It's really rare, particularly with something like this. Something that's politically charged. Fortnite returns to Apple devices via Geforce Backdoor. That's not really a backdoor. Come on, I'm going to click this article just because if you know about Geforce Now, it is essentially a virtualized service that's powered by NVIDIA GPUs, Geforce GPUs. And they have a newer version of it. I think they're probably all using RTX cores, but Geforce Now allows you to link your Steam account or similar and play the game powered by Geforce, by RTX cards remotely, not on your computer, so to speak. What you do is you power up your computer and you log into Geforce Now and you play the game after connecting your account to Geforce Now. You select your game on Geforce Now and you play the game, but it's through a web browser or a browser, the app that drives it. So it's not, you're not installing the game locally, and it's all powered by Geforce Now. Now, it is not a backdoor. This is more like a side channel where all you're doing is loading up a browser and connecting to Geforce and playing the game. And it's odd that this is kind of clickbaity, but it's an article on PCGamer.com. Obviously, it's just a little snippet. This will not set off any legal issues because Geforce Now isn't doing anything. Fortnite isn't doing anything. It's all using generally accepted procedures. All you're doing, I mean, it would be like making remote desktop virtualization illegal on an iPad or an iPhone or whatever. Not illegal, but in violation of the terms of service for Apple. So this isn't going to be an issue, but the previous legal dispute definitely was concern for Apple enough to say that they broke the contract. So at any rate, I think that's it for today. If you stumble across this VOD, just know I am here from 6 to at least 7 every day, 7 days a week, at least until further notice. And I might come on earlier. I go by Mayor Watt across Twitch, but I stream as ohmTown. That way I can go into other people's channels and people don't go, oh, you're Mayor Watt who streams as Mayor Watt. I don't go into other people's channels and pump my my show on Twitch. If you are so motivated, then feel free to come by 6 o'clock to 7 Eastern, and we will talk about some news that shows up on ohmTown.com. And I encourage you to go over and sign up. It's real easy. Click that, hippity bop. You'll be, you can't see my cursor, but you click sign up, become a citizen of ohmTown, come on back after you find some links, throw them in our chat, and we can have a conversation about the stuff that you find more interesting than what I'm talking about, which probably could be anything. Yeah. How about I see you tomorrow? You sound good? Sounds good? It sounds good. So I'll see you tomorrow.